Hello, all my fellow skeptics out there. This is the Skeptical Skeptic back again with yet another video. This week, just giving a summary of my thoughts on the book of Leviticus from the Holy Bible, not to be confused with my summary video for the book of Leviticus, which I uploaded previously. Alright, so let's just get to it. I'm just going to come right out and say it. Leviticus is hot trash, garbage, probably one of the worst books in the entire Bible. What's wrong with it, you ask? Well, I'm definitely going to be getting into talking about the ridiculous immorality found in it, but just as a reading experience on its own, Leviticus has to be one of the most dull and boring books in the entire Bible. Almost nothing happens throughout the entire 27 pages. The Israelites start wandering around in the wilderness and they end wandering around in the wilderness. The plot grinds to a complete halt. Literally the first 9 chapters of the book of Leviticus, a third of the book, are just dedicated to instructions for how to offer up sacrifices to God, and they get so goddamn repetitive. When I was embarking on my quest to read the entire Bible for the first time when I was 16, I definitely remembered reading and or learning about some of the stuff from Genesis and Exodus, but I don't think I hardly ever read from or learned about a single passage from the book of Leviticus, probably because it's so incredibly boring, and most of what's written in it has nothing to do with how Christianity is practiced in the modern day. I don't know how fully many Christians today are aware of this, but the main duty of the original priesthood to God was not giving sermons, it was burning animal flesh so that God could get a good whiff of it. And like I said before, the intricate and repetitive instructions for how to offer up these sacrifices take up so much of the book, as well as future books. It's honestly ridiculous how wasteful these offerings were too. I mean, the Israelites were required to offer up tons of food every day, because they thought doing so would somehow cleanse them of their misdeeds. Why not give your food and livestock to the poor instead, rather than handing it to rich priests to eat and burn? It's superstitious nonsense, and I'm incredibly glad animal sacrifice is not a part of most church rituals nowadays. For real, vegans who read the Old Testament are going to have a fucking heart attack. The only real story developments that happen in the book, other than God just giving some instructions to Moses, are Aaron and his sons finally entering into the priesthood, and 2 of Aaron's sons subsequently getting burnt alive by God for offering up profane fire to him, and then later a blasphemer being stoned to death by the congregation of Israel. That's it. Which, yes, speaking of which, God's moral character has not improved very much here compared to the previous book, as he gives out some absolutely repugnant and cruel laws and commands in the book of Leviticus. God threatens to exterminate his own people if they get out of line, and even make them eat their own babies. Not the last time he would make that threat, by the way. Extremely xenophobic rhetoric is given out by God about how all the other nations around Israel must be destroyed for their different cultural practices, like homosexuality, for example, which God prescribes the death penalty for, as he does for things like disrespecting your parents, worshipping other gods, and adultery. And I mean, is there some good stuff? Yeah, sure, I'm not going to claim that every single law given out by God is just completely bad. The book says stuff like, be kind to your neighbor, give to the poor, don't lie, don't steal. And yeah, some of the practices that God condemns, like incest and human sacrifice, are probably good things to disallow. Even though there have been multiple instances in the Bible of God's people performing incest and human sacrifice, and he hasn't seemed to mind in those instances. Bit of a contradiction there. One thing that God definitely does not condemn, though, is polygamy, the most common form of marriage found in the Bible, with tons of famous biblical heroes engaging in it like Esau, Jacob, and Joshua, never once being explicitly condemned for it. Get off your high horse, Christians. The Mormons had it right all along. But yeah, the actual good laws, like in most parts of the Bible, are the minority, and the laws given out in Leviticus are mostly authoritarian crap, like making it illegal for people to get tattoos or shave their beards, or making it illegal for cripples to enter into the priesthood. And of course, possibly the worst and most harmful law given in the entire Bible in terms of its impact on Christian societies throughout history, where God proclaims that you are supposed to take heathen slaves from the nations around you, and they and their children will be your property forever, and not merely indentured servants. A verse used to justify the cruel and inhumane treatment of African slaves by the Europeans for over 200 years. If God is the ultimate arbiter of morality, why the fuck does it never say, just once, in the entire 1,200 plus page Bible, hey, maybe slavery bad? It's sick! Then there are just the plain ridiculous laws, like the incredibly arbitrary restrictions on certain animals for food consumption. God hates fags, more like God hates shrimp, am I right? Though I do have to commend the Bible for daring to promote the consumption of insects in one's diet, because insect farming should totally be a thing we do more of in the 21st century rather than unnecessarily wasting enormous amounts of resources and destroying the environment raising cows, hashtag save the planet, hashtag bug life. Then, of course, there are the laws concerning bodily discharges, where God talks about periods and wet dreams, and he has about the position on them that you might expect, with them making the discharger filthy, and they need to stay away from other people in their uncleanliness to not spread their cooties. Or how about the scapegoat ritual? The term scapegoat is usually meant to refer to a person who takes the blame for a crime or offense they did not commit, sort of like Jesus did. And just like with Jesus' sacrifice, the scapegoat tradition of the Old Testament is just as ridiculous, with the priest transferring the sins of Israel onto a goat and letting it go free into the wilderness, which somehow makes atonement for the sins the people committed, even though, it's a fucking goat. The most ridiculous law given out in the book of Leviticus, however, has to be the cure for leprosy, where you are supposed to kill a bird and then splash the dead bird's blood onto the living bird, and then use the living bird to sprinkle the dead bird's blood onto the infected person and or house. I mean, I don't know how a single person can read this shit and not come to the conclusion that either the people who wrote the Bible had no idea what the fuck they were talking about, or God is just the biggest troll of all time. The leprosy laws would certainly be entertaining to read if they weren't stretched over 4 entire chapters. Like I said before, the biggest sin, for lack of a better term, that the book of Leviticus commits is that it's so boring. And I get it, the Bible is also supposed to be a book of laws as well as a book of stories, but you can't claim the Bible is the greatest book ever written, and then have an entire book within it be nothing but dry, uninteresting, and repetitive laws about leprosy, feast days, and animal sacrifices that Christians don't even care about anymore. Anyway, that's about it. That sums up all my thoughts on the book of Leviticus. Now I just have to get through the book of Numbers next. Hooray! I can't wait. I'm so excited. The book of Numbers is great. Anyway, review over. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. This has been The Skeptical Skeptic, and as always, remember, be compassionate, be understanding, but most importantly, never stop questioning. Bye.